Talk about what you do throughout the week leading into game day, the preparation for each game. Talk about that.
Well, I have a very interesting role because it's diverse. I do both studio work with the Southeastern Conference on ESPNU, and then as well I cover the live remote events, sideline reporting for football, and then doing play-by-play for both women's basketball and also softball. And so really my year, the only consistent piece is our show, SEC Weekly, and for that show I work with a group and that's based out of Tulsa, actually, interestingly enough, and we look for some of the best feature stories and reporting, and we gather kind of those biopics or, specialty stories about the conference that aren't necessarily what's happening on the field, but rather what's happening to the student athletes around what they do on the field. We cover their academic performance. We cover all of the Olympic sports, not just the big ones that get the best TV. So, for that role, I pretty much just work with those guys, write the script, host the show, do phone interviews, talk to analysts, that kind of thing. It's very studio specific. Going into a football game, Wednesday or Thursday, we'll start talking to visiting coaches and players, start reading game notes, and then Friday we get to meet with the home coaches and the players, and then, of course, Saturday is game day, and there's nothing like game day in the SEC.
Were you a former athlete?
Actually, that's an interesting story. Yvette Girard, the LSU softball coach, when I ran into her at the SEC championship, took one look at me and said, "Cara, did you play?" And, of course, she was referring to softball. Yes, Coach, I did play slow pitch up through middle school, but when I got into high school, I did the fast pitch thing I hadn't really trained at when I was young. I played everything right up until the high school level, and then I was a little bit too short and a little bit too slow to compete at my large high school and varsity athletics. So I was on the tall flag team, actually. I was on a spirit squad. And so I'm just a big fan at heart. I'm from Southern California, and I know that initially some of the SEC fans got wind of that, and they were a little bit resistant to me because as we say, in these parts, I'm not from these parts. But I love these parts. I love this conference and the fans and the passion and the energy. It's unlike anything I experienced growing up at a college level. In Southern California, I saw this kind of engagement from the fan base for teams like the Dodgers and the Lakers, and when I was young, the Raiders of the NFL were in LA. I went to UC San Diego. I was a biochemistry and cell biology major. I chose UCLA over Stanford for graduate school because in the back of my mind, my other dream, other than being a college professor of biology, was to be on TV. And I thought, well, if I'm going to quit grad school, I better be in Los Angeles instead of in Palo Alto, California.